So, welcome to the Oxford Clay Pottery Podcast. I'm Catherine Tomlinson and I started an eco conscious pottery company called Oxford Clay. Now, at Oxford Clay, I don't just make pottery, I also make resources such as books and courses and information for other potters who want to be more eco-conscious in their pottery practice but maybe don't know where to start or can't find out the information they need. So that's what this podcast is all about. It's about sharing everything I've learned along my eco-conscious pottery journey with you, and I can't wait to get started. So let's go. Hello, welcome back to the Oxford Clay Pottery Podcast. I'm your host, Catherine Tomlinson. And today's episode, it might not seem like it's related to pottery really, but I think it's really related to pottery. And it's basically, we're going to be talking about like mindset in pottery. And we're going to be talking about choosing thoughts to support your pottery practice rather than like undermine it. Because like, I think when you're learning something, it's obviously in pottery, there's like, infinite amount of stuff to learn. Like you could be learning one particular technique and still not know everything all about it, if you're spending your whole life learning about that one technique. Because pottery is just it evolves all the time, but also, you're evolving all the time in terms of like the your interests and the things you want to learn about. But also just there's like so much to learn in pottery, because it's like this huge kind of discipline. So this can be a little overwhelming. Like, and so I thought that it would be quite a good, like, yeah, good episode to talk about like thoughts that you can almost like choose to support your like learning process or like your pottery making practice rather than undermine it, because I think there are thoughts that can really kind of get in the way of you learning new things, and then there are thoughts that can really like support you of learning new things, or just support you in your joy learning something new, or just support you in your joy doing pottery. And so I thought that yeah, it would be a really good episode to just record in terms of like just some thoughts that I've actually had in the past. I have to admit, like, yeah. So this thought work thing is something that I've been practicing personally. And yeah, I just thought I would tell you some thoughts that I've had and then some kind of alternative thoughts, which might be, more supportive. Okay, so right, let's let's talk about like this when you sort of maybe like first start doing pottery, because it can be like really quite overwhelming in terms of like, when you're the very beginning of your learning journey in terms of like making pottery, and it just seems like there's a massive gap between like what you thought you could make in your mind and then maybe like, the technical skills that you have or the technical knowledge you have, or to make that thing. So I really really experienced this when I first started making pottery, and there was such a gap that I used to get incredibly frustrated. Like when I was trying to make stuff, I'd often just squash the thing I was making. I just used to find it really difficult to kind of like hold that, like that frustration basically of like wanting to make something and then not being able to. I found that really difficult. So one of the thoughts I had was with I'll never be good, right? I'll never be good at pottery, and that's because it just felt so overwhelming to learn, like, what I needed to learn to be able to make what I wanted to make. And so, first of all, what is good, right? So I think I'll never be good is a really interesting thought, because it like it's you're thinking a lot about like the end, like where you're trying to get to, and like where are you trying to get to? So it's this really confusing thing. It's like pottery is actually about the actual making process and being in the moment when you're making something, and like the joy it's giving you when you're actually making something. There is no like good, there is no like thing that you're getting to. So I'll never be good is a really really kind of almost like a false thought, because there is no place that you can get to where you'll suddenly be good. It's like a threshold, like, oh, now I'm good at pottery. Just doesn't work like that, like pottery is happening in the present moment. Yeah. So yeah, okay. So instead of like I'll never be good, what I tried to think was like, well, first of all, I tried to focus more on like the actual process of making and the physical joy that I was feeling in my body when I was actually making something. And that is like being good, if you know what I mean, at pottery. It's like allowing yourself to be kind of be imperfect as you're making something. Um, yeah, and also I think another part of this is just increasing my like capacity to like hold when I didn't know how something was going to turn out. So this whole like I want something to be good kind of implies that there's some kind of like end pot at the end, which is like a good pot. And that doesn't work. It doesn't work like that either. There's always something where you're just like, when you're looking at your pot, you're like, oh, well, that could be maybe improved, or I didn't really like the color of that, whatever. So like I think that like another part of this is like holding the kind of uncertainty about how something will turn out, and also really thinking, well, however it turns out, that's really not like the point of pottery. um yeah, and then like this kind of thing about like the joy in experimentation. So rather than thinking I'll never be good, just thinking like, what am I doing right now? How can I experiment? How can I play in my pottery? And really just giving yourself permission just to kind of like enjoy, like I said, like enjoy the present moment, experimenting, playing in your pottery practice. And then, there is no like being good. But the irony is that the more you just allow yourself to play and enjoy it, the more you can kind of channel your creativity and the kind of I'm really reluctant to say this, but like inverted commas, the better that you get at pottery, because you kind of like, that was in inverted commas, definitely, because there is no better, but like, that gap between your technical skills and then what you want to make, your creative ideas will close by just allowing yourself just to kind of like mess about, play, experiment, yeah, be in the present moment when you're making pottery. Okay, so yeah, so another thought we could replace "I'll never be good at pottery" with is, every time I make pottery, I learn something new, and that is just like real kind of focusing on the fact that pottery really is a practice, a bit like, say, like I think I've said this on the podcast before, like a bit like yoga or something, where like every day it's literally like you're showing up. You don't have to make pottery every day, but like every time you make it, you're showing up, you're just practicing, and then you're kind of learning a little bit more. It's like this real cumulative effect of just like keeping on going, little bits, incremental kind of improvements. I'm reluctant to say the word improvement as well, but like, but like, I guess learning more technically about your skills and stuff. So, yeah, every time I make pottery, I learn something new and improve my technical skills. Improvement is in inverted commas then. Okay, so, okay, so right. Another thing that I really felt was that when I was learning to make pottery, like in an evening class setting, I would find that I would like compare myself to other people. And this was not conducive to me like learning and like a kind of, psychologically safe learning environment for myself. Because I would like look at other people and I think, oh my gosh, they're like better than me. Everyone's better than me. So that was one of the thoughts I had. Everyone is better than me in the class. Another thought I had was like, I'll never be as good as them. Okay. So that was because, in a class, you might be with very diverse kind of, range of people with different pottery technical skills. Some people might have like just started that day. Some people might have been doing it for like 30 years or something, and they're just showing up because they don't have their own kiln or, their own wheel and stuff. So like at home, whatever, like, so yeah, this whole thing where like, comparing yourself to other people, firstly, it really is the thief of your joy. Now, people say that comparison is a thief of joy. That is so true in pottery, because it really stops you from like being in your body, being in your practice, being in your own making process. It just it takes you out of it, and you're sort of looking at other people, and everyone's so different in like the way they make stuff, what they like to make. So comparing yourself to other people in pottery is like, it's basically like completely like an impossible thing to do, because everyone is so different in like the way they make stuff. You're special and unique in the way you make stuff, and that is exactly right for you. So, okay, so here are some alternative thoughts that I've tried to replace this with. And yeah, this, like I said, in an evening class setting, this can be quite difficult, because it's quite visible. You're kind of there and you're making stuff, and it can be a little bit vulnerable to be like making things and invert commas getting it wrong in front of other people. I can really, really relate to that. So, um, Okay, the first thing I was trying to think was things like, see other people's pottery as like an expander for where you could be, so it's like, oh, okay, so this person's been doing pottery for like 20 years or something. Well, I could be like that in 20 years, if I wanted to be. So yeah, it's possible for them, it's possible for you. And okay, so another thing is like, yeah, so if you're thinking things like, I'll never be as good as them, you can think things like, well, they got there through practice and I can too. It's a learning opportunity, looking at other people's stuff. Maybe they do stuff in a really, like a different way than you would do stuff, and you're like, oh, well, actually, that's a really good way of attaching a mug handle, that I haven't thought of, or something. So it's like, although it can feel like, other people, like, if someone's doing something, I don't know, technically different to you, and better commas better, it's maybe that's a way that's going to result in like your mug handles cracking off less or something, so it's like that setting can really expand you and really expand your, like, your skills as well. um Okay, and then the final thing I just wanted to say is about when you have, like, say, like, your finished pot and you really don't like it. And this used to happen to me all the time at my pottery class. And I think this was because, like, I'd spent like weeks and weeks. So with a pottery class, you sometimes, evening class or something, you might go like weekly. And so, you've got a lot invested in that pot. It's like you've made it, then maybe you had to leave it a week to then turn it or something on the wheel, and then, or then maybe you even had to leave it another week where, like, then you attached a handle or something, so, and then it had to be fired, and then you, like, spent ages, oh, I don't know what glaze to pick, and then you picked a glaze, and then you're like, okay, I'm going to go with this glaze, it's going to be good. And then, the following week, so maybe it's taken you 5 weeks or something to make that pot, so that's a long time, that's a lot of, like, your heart is invested in that pot. And then like you don't like it at the end. It comes out the kiln, you're like, that's not my pot. And then you look on the bottom and you see your initials. I'd see my initials and I was like, oh no, that is my pot. I like you say, like, I don't like the glaze or something. Um, okay, so this used to happen to me all the time. And this has been a real kind of, like, I guess, like, labor of love in terms of trying to retrain my brain in like the, yeah, choosing different thoughts for this, because um okay, so firstly, what I had to start trying to think is that the outcome of the pot is not the point of pottery. So this pot that I'd spent like 5 weeks on or something, that's not the point of pottery. The point of pottery, of the class that I'd gone to, was to, like, be there making pottery, experiencing joy making pottery, but also just all the things I'd learned, like, throughout those 5 weeks, all the things I tried that maybe didn't work, or the things that accidentally broke that didn't get fired, the those are the things, or even the glaze that I hated on the pot, like the finished pot. Hate's a strong word. Like, maybe just, like, didn't like it. I thought it was going to be something different. So, like, that is the point. The point is to try all these different things, to be learning all those different things over those weeks. That is the point. Not like the finished pot. That's just like an outcome. It's not the process is the point, basically. So yeah, another thing I wanted just to say, the last thing is just like, it's really about, like, sort of who you're becoming in this, like, pottery making process. So, like, so I think, like we were saying about the finished pot, and, like, what it looks like, just think about all the things that you have, like, learned in terms of, like being able to hold different things, like your resilience, like your resilience in, like, when things go wrong, just like starting again, like your resilience, your all the, the technical skills you've learned, like I said. Or, like, what about your emotional capacity for, like, uncertainty, like, oh, how's it going to turn out, I don't know. Your capacity to, like, play, your capacity to think creatively, your capacity to, like, just keep going with something, even though this thing might be this thing might not be right. We're like, okay, well, your capacity to maybe start again when something like you thought, well, actually, I'm very disappointed with this, and so I'm just going to start again, and just like allowing yourself, another chance to start again. Yeah, there's so many things that you yeah, letting go is what I was trying to say. There's so many things that you learn through that process that are intangible. They're not going to be like, they're kind of almost like embodied in that finished pot, but they're kind of, they're intangible. So yeah, I was trying to think about all those things, not just like this finished pot. When I was like, yeah, when I had those thoughts like, oh, I don't like it. It's more about like how the person you've become making it is not, it's not the point of like whether you like the finished outcome or not. So yeah, so I hope that's been helpful. Like, it's been really nice for me to talk to you about some thoughts that I had, and I think another thing which I just wanted to share, like to sort of make the reason I wanted to make this episode as well, is just to kind of like let you know that like if you were having thoughts like that in pottery, it's like so normal. Like everyone's better than me. I think that's such a normal thing to think. And like it's okay to have those thoughts. It doesn't mean that you're not gonna like just it doesn't mean you're not going to get where, say, like you want to go with your technical skills. It's just a thought. But like, choosing really supportive thoughts for you, like I can learn anything I want. I just need some time. I just need like practice. Look at where they are. I can get there. I practice. I just practice for a few years or not, or a few weeks or So it's like just giving yourself like, yeah, permission to fail, permission to get things, not quite how you wanted them to be, and just to be like super kind to yourself, and choosing like the kindest thoughts possible, and the ones that really really support your learning, making your mind a really safe, gentle place for you to like try new things, and yeah, get like make mistakes, inverted commas. So yeah, oh, it's been so nice talking to you about it. And yeah, whatever you're thinking about your potting practice, like, yeah, wishing you very, very happy potting this week, and choosing kind thoughts, whatever you're thinking, make sure they're the kindest thoughts you can possibly pick for yourself. And yeah, sending you lots of happy potting vibes. And I will see you soon. See you on the next episode. And until then, goodbye. Oh, yeah. So I hope you enjoyed that episode. And if you're interested to learn more about eco conscious pottery, or making your pottery more eco conscious and sustainable, there's so much for you on the Oxford Clay website, which is www.oxfordclay.co.uk. I can't wait to see you there.